Adelphi University, the arts remain central in the history of this institution. Here comes Jonathan Larson of Rick. Here comes Chuck D of Public Enemy. Flavor Flav of Public Enemy. Rebecca Colby, the Grand Sculptor, all connected to Adelphi University. Oh, that says so much. But of course we're here because you saw for yourself just how precious and how priceless the young brothers and sisters were in their artistry. The children's choir, great act. My God. What a sweet spirit they created in this place. See the sparkle in their eye. When you looked at them, you knew, as I knew, deep down in my heart, that every child, every color, every culture, every civilization, equally precious, yes, equally priceless. The baby in New Town, Connecticut, who's vanilla, could be a chocolate baby in East Los Angeles is brown on a reservation that's red. Korea was yellow. It could be a Palestinian baby in Gaza, and it could be a Jewish baby in Tel Aviv. It could be a black baby in Hempstead. All equally precious. That's the start. And we need to say it over and over and over. Muslim, Jew, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, agnostic, atheistic. It seems so simple, but if you really believe that, that means you're countercultural. You're against dominant orientation on the globe. I want to begin on a Socratic note because we're here to talk about art, protest, and celebration of peace. And for me, there's three fundamental elements anytime you talk about the art of protest. The art of critical thinking, courage, think for yourself. The art of loving, the willingness to serve, especially the weak and vulnerable. Then there's the art hope, which is very difficult in these dark times. And it is true, as Sister Christine said, I stand here today because I am who I am because somebody loved me. Somebody cared for me. Somebody attended to me and spent enough time to try to unleash in the depths of my own soul, heart, mind, and body the art of critical thinking, the art of serving others, and the art of hope. I want to turn to line 38A, middle of poverty, the unexamined life is not worth living. You know, Malcolm X had always had the examined life is painful. You can't talk about art of protest. You learn how to muster the courage to examine who and what we are. As persons and individuals, as members of community, as citizens of the Democratic Republic, even though that adjective has less and less vitality. What we mean by democratic these days, the domination of the economy, national surveillance, drones dropped on innocent people, especially children, in our names. How do we muster the courage to raise our voices in public space? That's part of the conversation. I'm just one fallible voice among other fallible voices You know that schooling is about just gaining some skills so you can gain access to some slot in the labor force and maybe live under the illusion of security in some vanilla suburb. Oh, that's it. There's the case. Tradition of John Dewey, W.B. Du Bois. Education, which the Greeks call paideia, P-A-I-D-E-I-A, is learning how to die in order to learn how to live. Because anytime you examine your own assumptions and presuppositions, you let go certain dogma and certain doctrine, that's a form of death. There is no fundamental learning, there is no fundamental education unless something is dying in you all the time so you can be reborn. You can become more critically, more compassionately, more courageous about what it is to be human. Human. And our English word human comes from the Latin humando. Humando means what in Latin? Very. Yes. Humility. Humanity has to do with burying the fact that we're fabulous, two-legged, linguistically conscious creatures born from clean air and feces. That's who we are. Someone's trying to funk masters like George Clinton. We all emerge in the funk of our mama's womb. There's a lot of love down there because that love push gets you out. When you're on your way to being the culinary delight of terrestrial worms, that's funky too. Not too long a trek between your mama's womb and the tomb. The fundamental question that Socrates raises is, what kind of human being are you going to be in that short time? What kind of integrity, what kind of honesty, what kind of decency, what kind of virtue will you exemplify in the short time, that dash that they'll have on your tomb? Oh, that's what art's about. Yeah. That's the dark roots of the screen that the great Lorca talked about. But also at the same time, it's a witness that you can bear. Socrates also says, connected to artists at their best. He says, the cause of my unpopularity, the reason why he was condemned to death, what he called parrhesia. What is that? Frank speech, plain speech, fearless speech, unintimidated speech, the kind of speech that gets you in trouble. Thank God for Shakespeare. Thank God for Toni Morrison. Thank God for John Coltrane. Discovers in the dark precincts of his own soul what he has to say, not because he thinks he has a monopoly on truth, goodness, or beauty, but rather because he has the courage to think for himself, but always in the context of a variety of traditions. He knows there's no John Coltrane without Johnny Hodges playing in the Ellington Band. He knows there's no John Coltrane without a genius from Kansas City named Charlie Bird. No Bird without Buster Smith from Texas. No Bird without Lester Young, born in Woodfield, Mississippi, raised in Minnesota like another genius named Robert Zimmerman. Bob Dylan. Tradition. But tradition itself becomes vital and vibrant precisely when you muster the courage to think for yourself. And in thinking for yourself, you are learning how to die in order to learn how to live more intensely, more critically, more compassionately. That's the Socratic note in any art of protest. You read corporate media these days and it's protest. What is protest? Oh, they're emoting. We had protests today in front of many fast food production sites, didn't we? McDonald's, Times Square, and others. They're just emoting. No, protest at its deepest level, when it is artistic, is rooted in a certain critical reasoning. Why is it that we can't make $15 an hour? When you look at the level of profits that have been escalated in 30 years of wealth, hemorrhaged at the top, where wages have been stagnating, where trade unions are pushed to the margin. What kinds of ideologies are in place that make it so difficult for us to stay in contact with the dignity of working people? They are the vast majority of the population, 51% of the population, on 42% of the wealth. That's right. That's how New Those are not just numbers, those are human beings under those numbers. This place has a rich legacy. I don't know whether Paul Maddox Jr. is still around. Is he still around? Oh, tell that brother I love him. He had his father. His book, Business as Usual. Economic Crisis and the Failure of Capitalism. Paul Maddox Jr. His father was a hero of mine. Radical Democrat calling for workers' control of the wealth that they produce, as opposed to just the private owners at the top who are thoroughly unaccountable precisely, or at least one of the reasons why, given the financial catastrophe of 2008, not one Wall Street executive goes to jail, but let Jamal get caught in Hempstead with some marijuana. He's going straight to jail. Broke with the Ten Commandments financially. End up with a Ferguson situation. Just so disrespected. Look at you like you're a criminal before you even get a chance to smile. Stereotyped in such a way that it's difficult to keep track of your humanity. That's Brother Michael. Brother West, all the facts are not in. No, they're not in. You're absolutely right. I believe in critical reasoning. Let's look at the evidence. But nobody leaves a body 4.5 hours in the sun. With the blood flowing on and the family comes in, finally they bring in the SUV. They just take the body and throw it like it's a piece of cat. Oh, that's a disrespect. That every human being, but especially black people in America, who understand for 400 years what it means to be terrorized and traumatized and stigmatized psychically, existentially, as well as politically and economically. It's a spiritual issue and moral issue as well as politics. And the art of protest is never just about politics. Because if it's not co-training, if you put love at the center of it, then it's just revenge. But no, Coltrane, Martin King, Curtis Mayfield, Nina Simone, so many other people. But when you love folk, you can't stand the fact they're being treated unfairly. When you love folk, you loathe the fact they're being treated unjustly. And if you don't do something, the rocks are going to fly. That's not just political. That's a decision that says, this is the kind of human being I choose to be. And it's about love at the center of it that leads toward protest, that leads toward critique, leads toward resistance, leads toward solidarity, open to all who make that choice. None of us caught within the prison house of our color, our gender, our sexual orientation, or even our class. Vanderbilt had left us in the family, who just were not hegemonic. Yeah. Rockefeller had progressives. Socialism, in fact, just wasn't popular. You have to be willing to risk your popularity in the name of your intellectual integrity. That's what we love about Socrates. That's what education at its deepest level is all about. That formation of attention so you attend to the fundamental things, not the superficial things in the magnificent culture. And I heard this culture of superficial spectacle where people are so obsessed with how people appear and what kind of titillation and stimulation they can produce as opposed to what kind of care and nurturing they can share. Precisely what the poets are all about. That's what Shelley meant in that last line of the Revolutionary Manifesto, defense of poetry, when he said poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. And he was talking not just about magnificent versifiers as the poet that we heard, or the singer of Daniel that we heard, the voices of virtue that we heard. But he meant the poet inside of us. Do we have the courage, the muster, the imagination, and the empathy? Put ourselves in the shoes of others. Put ourselves in the skin of others, to walk miles in their shoes and skin. No matter where they are, they might be Dalit brothers and sisters in India. Might be working class folk in Ireland. That's what poets do, to allow us to travel with our critical reasoning, but also with our imagination and our empathy. That's why I moved to the second note, the Socratic note. Must have the courage to think critically over against the grain and willing to pay a cost. But it's very interesting in the history of Western thought that Socrates never sheds a tear, he never cried. What we heard today comes from a tradition, my tradition, the Black prophetic tradition, that begins with the response to catastrophe. There's never been a race problem in America. There's been catastrophes visited on black people in America. That's very different. Slavery was not a problem. It was a 244-year-long catastrophe. Jim Crow was not a problem. It was American terrorism. Every 2.5 days, some black child, a black woman, a black man was hanging from a tree. Strange fruit that southern trees bear, the great Billie Holiday and the Jewish brother Maripol writing the lyrics of that magnificent song. That's not just a problem, a catastrophe. And they're talking about second note, dealing with tears. They had to move from Athens to the legacy of Jerusalem. Thank God for our creative and courageous Jewish brothers and sisters who enacted a moral revolution in the species in Hebrew scripture that said, to be human is to spread hesed, loving kindness to the stranger, the weak, the vulnerable, the fatherless, the motherless. 36 references to love of stranger in Hebrew scripture. One reference of love thy neighbor in Leviticus. So you had a conception now that constitutes a wholesale tradition that says you at your highest level as a human being not only must be in solidarity with the oppressed and the weak and the vulnerable, but you must do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with thy God. What a standard. But it begins with tears. And yes, a Jew named Jesus, yes, Grand Mohammed himself, will all come out of that moral revolution that begins with the tears that Socrates never sheds. Doesn't mean that we reject Socrates, we just have to out-Socratize Socrates. We have to critically examine the critic himself. Just like our skeptics these these days. We have to be skeptical about skepticism. Pull out critical elements and dimensions that are essential, but still allow us to keep making our trek with integrity, honesty, and decency and virtue in our brief move from Mama's womb to tomb. Legacy of Jerusalem.
Karl Marx himself, Jewish in origin, Lutheran.
For what? His father was forced to convert in order to keep his job. Changed his name from Mordecai to Mark. Atheist by choice. Fundamental solidarity with the weak and the vulnerable. Secular to the core origins, still tied to that grand moral revolution that said, look at the world through the lens of those phenomenon called the wretched of the earth. Huey Newton, son of Reverend Walter Newton, Bethel Baptist Church, Monroe, Louisiana, known as the baddest Negro in Monroe. That's Reverend Walter Newton, Huey, East Bay, Oakland. No longer cognitive commitment to God, but a whole lot of Reverend Walter Newton shot through that black man. Because he said, I'm willing to give my life for the weak and the vulnerable. We need to police the police, he said. His spirit still alive in Ferguson. Arbitrary policing. See it in the Organization of Black Struggle. You can see it in Tef Poe, the artist there in Ferguson. You see it in Tory. You see it in Sister Sherelle, some of the other young folk. We were just with Brother Harry Belafonte. We've been in dialogue with them every week. 9 of them in dialogue, letting us know what's happening, especially the younger generation. I'm not as interested in talking to my dear brother Al Sharp. Pray for the Negro. I don't need to have any sustained dialogue. I want to talk to the young people on the ground, dealing every day with the terror coming at them. And I want them to know they come from a great tradition that's so tragic and also prophetic, and telling them over and over again, be co-training, keep love at the center of who you are. Always understand that when Emma Steele's mother stepped through the lectern, she didn't talk about revenge. She didn't talk about hate. She said, what? I don't have a minute to hate. I will pursue justice for the rest of my life. That's what your tradition is. But it's also courageous and it is willing to live and die. That cuts against the grain. Why? Because we were ruled by big money and everybody now for sale. Everything is for sale, including the leaders. And there's a difference between the art of the sellout and the art of protest. Qualitative difference. People say, oh, Brother West, you're always so hard on that. No, I'm a Christian. I love everybody. I love gangsters, I love thugs, I love sellouts, but I believe in telling the truth. You never see me sell out. Keep loving me and tell me the truth. We need to be Socratic with one another. We need to be prophetic with one another if we have any right to celebrate peace. And Brother Mark reminds us, peace is in no way the absence of tension, it's the presence of justice. It's about love, and justice is what love looks like in life. Just like Kurt Mayfield and Otis Redding remind us, tenderness is what love feels like in pride. When you're talking about protest, not talking about just being the spiritual and the social, the personal and the political, the economic and the existential. We have our analysis of imperialism and capitalism of empire and the kind of economy that we have dominated by oligarchs and plutocrats. We keep track of the vicious form of male supremacy in a way in which domestic violence and patriarchal violence tries to wound and bruise so many sisters of all colors. We keep track of vicious legacies of homophobia. We lose sight of our precious gays and lesbians, bisexual and transgender peoples. Keep track of our children and the elderly. This is not PC chit-chat. It's a way of life, the art of protest, the fusion of the Socratic and the prophetic. But I want to end on a blue note. We started on a Socratic note and the prophetic note. It fuses the art of protest on the one hand and the celebration of peace on the other. What do you mean, Brother West, a blue note? We just with James Cotton just a few weeks ago. It's not advertised. I'm just letting you know some of the giants that still alive. And that harmonica like little Walter for 60 years with a stroke that still sounded better than most of the young folk these days who are full in bodily energy, but often low on mastery of craft. I'm talking about the young artists who make millions of dollars but can't sing any tune. I love it all the time. I say, you know, I go in the studio and y'all gonna have one of the great ones because they probably tomorrow. You go my album 2007, that Brother Genius in so many ways. It's interesting to me that you all don't have groups that can harmonize. Like the main ingredient in the whispers, the blue magic, even Ohio players, the Dales, the Emotions, the Jones Girls, Earth, Wind, and Fire. How come you ain't got groups that can harmonize? We understand you don't have groups that can play instruments because the instruments have been eliminated in the school. You understand that? You got to sample George. You got to sample George. You got to sample Water 103rd Street Rhythm Band. But singing in harmony is what? It's the faculty of receptivity to learn how to listen and take in so you can then respond rather than being aggressive with the microphone. Everybody got to listen to you while you sing a thing and then you go up. What's going on? The blues is about receptivity and creativity. You know, the James Brown concert, he stayed on the stage for 4 hours. Moved to the middle of the stage and said, I am an extension of you. I wouldn't exist without you. Did we miss any song or somebody would holler in the back? You miss soul power. Hit it, Bootsy. Conception of himself as an artist was a servant of the people. Nobody loves me but my mama. She might be driving too. That's the blues, isn't it? That's catastrophic. That's like Socrates' antiquity. Everybody against the other than mom and fight that sheep. You so blessed, Brother Anthony. You know Christine never died. Ain't that right? You love you to death. Oh, yeah. God love you too. I got a mama loving me to death. Everybody doesn't have one. Maybe they don't have a father loving them to death. The blues are for folk who are in exilic situations, but they still muster the courage to think for themselves and be Socratic. They still muster the prophetic, still have compassion in the face of catastrophe. Oh, we need that so badly today. Art, protest, celebration of peace, to learn how to look the darkness in the face, the way Shakespeare does, and find just every moment a flickering candle against the backdrop of the darkness of barbarism, brutality, and bestiality. That's where we are right now. The barbarism, the bestiality comes in so many different forms. Do we have the Socratic courage, the prophetic courage